Hey guys, this is going to be part 2 of the Terran tutorial. We're going to go over like situational stuff for Terran now. I have 3 games that we're going to do a watch along with, kind of the same as we did with Protoss. The first game is going to be a mech game, just like a standard macro mech. I'll talk about like things that I do right, things that I do wrong, why I do what I do, that kind of thing. The second game is just going to be a standard bio tank game, and then the third game is going to be bio tank, but it's how I react to getting contained, like a cannon contain. Yeah, so these games I do make a fair amount of mistakes, so and I think that's okay to show, like, because then I can explain to you guys, what I did wrong, what I should have done, that kind of thing. Um, it's also good for you guys to see that I'm not a perfect player and I'm fully aware of it. Uh, but I think there's stuff to learn in mistakes as well. If you ever watch my stream, you'll see that especially on ladder, I'll go over, um, I'll go over lost replays all the time and just be like, this is what I did wrong. Okay, so going in this game, we see it's Protoss Zerg random. End up with 2 Zerg teammates. I think they both 9 pool. I'm not sure if red 9 pools, but if you have 2 Zergs, you're pretty good to go mech. The only case where it like might not be good is if it's double Zerg Protoss, but even then, it's actually still not bad. Um, Going mech against double Zerg is bad when you don't have double Zerg to cancel them out, essentially. Yeah, it looks like they both go 9 pool. So, yeah, we just wall. It's okay that I did like a delayed wall. Um, kind of decided late I was going to mech. I don't mech super often. We go for the macro mech build, which is going to be 3 factoring before I really start production. I think I kind of went over the build order before, right? I think I did in my first video, so we're not going to go over that right now. Skip ahead a bit. So like when teams fighting, kind of expected. The only thing is 12 o'clock is sharing with Protoss, which is kind of a tough situation for us, but I do have the Zerg at my choke. Kind of doesn't help a whole lot, but you see I'm on triple factory. We're starting production now. And yellow actually does the exact same thing as me, so I think this is a pretty good game to show. It ends up being a mirror, kind of, in that sense. So here we're just trading against Lings, right? Obviously we want to shape off Lings as much as we can for free. We do patrol micro here. It's not the prettiest, but we can blame turn rate. Here we see he's on vultures. I think this is the first we'd seen of it. So once we clear Lings, we're good to fight. You'll see anytime I clear their Lings and we have Lings, we always want to fight the vultures like that, where my Lings are tanking, my vultures are damaging his. I end up going speed first. Yeah, he does as well. So like here, for instance, right, my Lings are here, so he has to run. We back up, so green should too, yep. We're just continuing on macro, just mass. Here we have a big fight. We're ahead here. I think I overchase right here. Yeah, so I overchase a little bit, and I don't patrol micro super well. So I end up losing a couple, kill a couple. I guess it ends up being relatively even, so it's not that bad. But I run into zealots and lings and lose a bunch more. But like this was my first kind of big mistake, I think. It ends up kind of being okay because we end up macroing better. Oh, you see also I expanded. It's gonna go over that. So like one thing you'll see me do a lot, and you guys should consider this as well. Whenever you're fighting, as you know, your money will go up, right? It's hard to macro and micro at the same time, perfectly. So what I'll do a lot of times, you see I already have an SCV down there waiting at my expansion. So I'll send one up there so that if I slip too much on my macro and I go over 400, I can queue everything, then I can drop a CC, assuming that the situation's okay for it. So here we start getting a good trade. I think I started when I start chasing, so like we win a fight here. Yeah, over chase, but it's like kind of okay, but we traded well. And then I queue up, I'm around 400 here after queuing up. So then it's like, okay, well, we're floating money. I got everything building. Let's go and start a command center. We still kind of have mid control. Wasn't like the best trade here, but we do have link control right now in mid, and I'm confident in my macro all in all. So that could have been a little bit better. Like if I didn't waste, this would have been a really good expand timing, I think, but turns out okay. There he makes a mistake, right? He fights without the lings at first, so you'll see when he fights without the lings, I move in. I pick off a couple vultures here, the lings get here, I start backing up, cut out the lings, kind of pick stuff on the like fringes of the attack as best we can. Continue my macro, blah blah blah. So here I know I'm gonna be ahead in an expansion, right? I'm just confident in that. We can pretty well see that he's not gonna be able to expand in his natural. We actually get a pretty good mine hit in our favor here. I tried to start mines, and I guess I misclicked or made a mistake or something, and I didn't realize it for a very long time I didn't have mines. It's not that big of a deal in this situation, but I started throwing on extra factories because my expansion is going to be up soon. Get whatever trades we can. Our lords in mid to help us with mines. Start my upgrades immediately, because in mech versus mech especially, upgrades are pretty massive. I want to say, I'm not 100% sure on this. I meant to double check it before I started this video, but I'm pretty sure with 2 attack siege tanks, 2-shot siege tanks when in siege mode. I'm pretty sure. So like that's a pretty big breaking point in TVT. So here we go for blue. We get a lot of drone kills. I end up going into Goliath, which is fine because, well, my thought process was I'll go Goliath because my macro is going to be ahead of his, because my eco is going to be way ahead, right? And that's okay, but I really should have gone into tanks more. So this is my second kind of mistake here. Yeah, I should have just gone tanks. Like, there was no reason to be, like, silly about it, but I go pretty hard into Goliath because I'm like, whatever, I'm so far ahead, I kind of wanted to goof around, and that was a mistake. It could have been a lot cleaner. The reason being, like, obviously, if I had more Goliath, then I don't have to worry about yellow, but 12 o'clock is held in, and Dragoons trade pretty well against Goliath. If I gone tanks, it just would have been better against both, so I end up taking, like, a pretty bad trade because of it, and we end up losing mid briefly. So this is when it kind of goes a little bit south. I hit green, and I'm like really heavy on Goliath, and we fight against goons, and it's just a bad trade here. Especially going through this like crappy choke. So I try to pull it back a little bit so I'm not fighting the choke. Like, so I'm not getting choked off the whole time. Kind of pulling back and forth, pick off a few Goliath, but you'll kind of see, like, I have a lot, right? I have a ton here. But going through this choke against goons, I take a really mediocre trade and lose a lot of Goliath. So it could have been a lot better. Here we fight more Dragoons, so we trade more Goliath off. And then we head into mid. And yeah, at this point I should have like, I don't know, 7, 8 siege tanks, right? So I spent all my gas going mass Goliath, and then I throw away a few more Goliath here. So yeah, don't do that. Don't do what I did. So because my gas is low and I need tanks really badly, you see I threw on 3 add-ons for 3 tanks at a time, and I start doing vultures to spin minerals without spinning gas. Again, we're still like really hard and ahead, or really far ahead in macro economy. Yellow's also taking damage from red in the meantime from Muta. Red ends up getting hit by a bunch of goons here. When I see goons at red, I'm like, okay, we're gonna have to try and break mid here. While all that's up there, it's kind of our best chance. I know if I get mid control here, then I can cut off their Terran, and we can control the game from there. Like, we can kill the Protoss top left. So mid's really, really important in this matchup. Like I said, it was the best time to go try and take it because of white being up at 12 o'clock, and so it makes white pull back. Actually, he pulls off a red, which is actually the correct call from him. Yellow just kind of didn't have as many tanks as he should have by now either, but I think he took a fair amount of damage from red. And like I said, our macro is really strong. We've been on expansion for a pretty long time. Keeping our money relatively spent. I think we're on 1 attack upgrade, and we're working on 2 right now. Not 100% sure. But upgrades are still decent. We have double armory going. So we get mid here. We're just continuing our macro. You'll see I push into Terran because we want to reset his army as much as possible. It's very hard for Terran to replace their mech well. And you'll see we push him in. I set up mines behind us for white coming in behind us. Just to pick off units because it's pretty hard for them to keep up with it, like having observers and stuff sitting there if they had observers at all. And we just lost mid, so he might not even have observer. And I was on Mass Goliath. So then I turn around here. We're on 1-1 right now, but I think we get to attack before he pushes. And I set up a contain. Terran pushing out against siege tanks is extremely difficult and cost inefficient. Oh, another mistake I made. So here we get hit by DT. I forget all the time to make Academy and scans when I go mech. It's not good. So here he tries to push out. You'll see like he just doesn't make it very far. It's very, very hard for Terran. I also could have set up a better arc as well, but I'm kind of like scrambling, trying to get everything going. So we start fighting Protoss now that the Terran is basically cut off. So he can try to go out the front, but it's pretty much never going to work for him. And if he swaps into drops, it's going to take him a long time to get there. So we have a lot of time before I'd have to worry about that. And I think it's at this point I'm kind of thinking it's unlikely he's going to try to swap into drops. I think his eco was hurt. We're pretty huge. And he's going to feel pressure to just try and break the front, which he's already tried once now. So it's most likely he'll try again. So what you'll see me do is we push for a while, and then enough time has passed without him trying to break. I'm like, okay, we need to reinforce this siege line a bit. And then sure enough, I was sending tanks over right as he was coming out. I didn't really have time to set up a better arc, so we just kind of played backwards on the tank line, which is still fine. Like, an arc is better, but this is still okay. And yeah, so he just loses everything trying to break out again. And then that gives us enough time to push and win the game. So that's like a macro mech play, with me making a few mistakes, but we talk about what goes wrong. So I think this is okay to talk about. I think it's okay to show you guys games where I'm not playing perfect, right? Okay, so this next game is just bio tank. It's pretty standard play for me. But I'll explain why I do 3 barracks before Academy here. Yeah, this game I go 3 barracks before Academy instead of 2 barracks Academy. First of all, there are races. We see 2 Protoss and Terran, so I know there's no Zerg. So because I know there's no Zerg, I don't even bother going bunker, because I know we don't have to worry about a 9 pool. Unless I was like sharing with a toss, then I probably would. And also when you're sharing with toss, you have to worry about getting cannoned, so it's typically better to go quicker gas when you're sharing it against a Protoss. But, so we see Terran top left, and based on depot placement, it's already looking like he's going to go bio. Because almost always when people go mech, they go wall. It's not necessarily true, but it's almost always true. So I can more or less safely assume that he's going bio. You confirm later that he is. But I like playing bio anyway more than mech. I think mech is better, but I like bio. In most cases, mech is better. Not always. Okay, so we see toss at 12 and toss at 3. So I decide, in this case, hey, I can go 3 barracks. And the reason I think this is because they have a toss that's really far away from me. I have a Zerg at 9 o'clock, and my Protoss at 5 o'clock is essentially sharing with the Protoss at 3. So I am the least likely target in this situation, and technically Orange should be holding back the Protoss. So like, they wouldn't be able to comfortably triple me because they'd be worried about something like Orange going counter or something like that, right? So in this case, I think it's safe for me to go mech, or not mech, but like a stronger macro, 3 racks. I think white goes standard like 2 racks Academy, but I think 3 racks bio is better than people realize. Like, it can be good in the right situations. So here purple just blindly hits me. Because we're on 3 racks, we actually have enough macro that we can fight this without having a bunker, which is nice. I do lose more than I would like to have here because, not to make too many excuses, but extra high latency does kind of suck for Marine Micro. But not like the end of the world, But we lose a little too much here, all in all, I think. It's okay. We are on 3 racks, so we do replenish relatively quickly. So we end up holding that. Fine. Take no damage, really. We just get a reset on our bio count, which isn't the worst because we have a toss as well. So we traded out a bunch of his zealots for my marines. I think marines are technically more valuable most of the time, but because I'm on 3 racks, I don't have stem early, so I think losing marines isn't as painful this way. Like, if you're playing 2 racks academy and you lose a bunch of marines like that, it sucks, because if you have... Like, imagine I don't have the 3 racks and I lose that many. My bio count's gonna be really low, so I'd have, like, I don't know, 8, 9 marines at this point, probably. With stem, maybe not even that much, so it can be a bit more painful losing bio on 2 racks. I actually go range first here. The reason I go range first is because when you're fighting against another biome, if I go... So my academy upgrades are going to be behind, right? If I go stem, and then he goes stem range, he will have stem and range before I have range, and I would get absolutely murdered in a fight like that. Range beats stem, straight up. Like, I'll have more units, and if I have range, then I can fight him with stem, without me having stem. So this actually just allows me to fight him if it comes to that. It's not always going to be the case. Like, it's a little bit situational. It's kind of tough. If I have like a bunch of zealots and stuff in front of me, then it can be better to have stem. But my thought process was they have 2 Protosses, I have 1. So my zealot teammates are like going to run out first. So I think it's better just to have the range first in case we end up fighting like a head-up fight against the other bio player. So obviously we see a ton of cannons here and we're like, hey, we don't want to fight that. It does mean, so when I see a bunch of cannons like that, I also know that means that his macro's kind of shot. So like, as you see, I've already moved the SCV to my expansion again. I do this all the time. And another reason I do this is because, hey, we just killed a bunch of their units, and 3 o'clock made like 8 cannons. So because he made several cannons like that, I can easily spare making a quicker command center without having to worry about basically getting overrun. And I'm feeling pretty good about my macro at this point. Like, I'm on 3 racks, have been for a while. My stem and range is done. I feel like I have a pretty good army. We have a lot of lings in mid. So my teammate also goes expansion, which is really good, by orange. We take another fight here where we get another good trade. And I can start going factory here. So we have an awesome fight there. Like, that was a really bad push out by them. It was really uncoordinated. And we just get like another great trade. So at this point, it's like yellow's a little bit, he's feeling a little bit pressured, but we're good. Like, we just got another great trade. My expansion's almost done. They can't expand. They can't even use their natural because I'm Terran, right? But shared choke. It's like we're kind of chilling at this point. We can just go like pretty good eco. So orange even double expands, which I 100% agree with. And from here, I do, okay, so this hit right here, I go up here because, and yellow kind of panics a little bit, but my reasoning for this was, even if my army dies, like, I have a pretty good bit at home, we have control in mid, 3 o'clock, we just had a really good fight, we killed a bunch of their stuff, and then I can fight them in my choke if it ends up coming to that, or at the choke on top right. But the reason I'm doing this attack is because they have no expansions right now, most likely, right? Orange is going up to 3 base, my expansion's done, and mining. So even if I lose my army, if I suddenly catch a hidden base like this and kill it, the game is over. It doesn't matter if I take a bad trade, my economy is going to be like double theirs, and orange is going to be even more so. So I can still trade out the army. So like, that's the reason I kind of blindly go up here to top right, because I'm like, this is the only potential base that they would have, and if they don't have it, we win, and if they do have it and I kill it, we win. So I see that. He's worried about me getting hit. Kind of freaks out a little bit, but it's okay. But yeah, that was the reason for that move. Just a little bit of like reading of the situation. Just our eco as a team is unbelievably far ahead of them. We have mid control. Our tech is fine. Like, yeah, I just feel very comfortable here. So we just need to make sure they didn't also get a big expansion up. We just don't need to die to anything silly at this point. There's a Reaver drop out of him, but it doesn't really do much or anything. I gotta push. They come out mid here. I have a bunch sitting at home. Not really necessary, it's just like in case something comes in. I felt pretty comfortable in mid. Kind of me just being lazy, to be honest. But as you can see too, I'm on 3 racks and 2 factory with a pretty strong eco. So as long as you're a macro, like if you're hitting your macro like cycles really well, you actually don't need a ton of like barracks and buildings and stuff, right? Back up because of storm. We have a lot of lurkers also cutting off the Terran now. And I actually started 3rd base as well. Now I said this, I think I said this last week, but I'll say it again. If you're floating a bunch, don't be ashamed to throw down like a ton of extra barracks or a ton of extra factories or whatever you need to. It's totally okay. Like as you get faster and keep practicing, you'll need less and less. But if you're floating, just throw down several more. It's totally fine. Yeah, especially if you're not used to like getting as many workers as kind of we've talked about and like hitting your macro cycles. If you're not used to all this and you're mining way more, you will be floating at first while you get used to it. So yeah, it's totally fine. Don't be ashamed. Okay, so we have mid control here. I'm taking my 3rd base. They can't really break mid. You know, I set up this ridge to make it hard for Terran. Terran actually tried taking his expansion, and I send over 2 tanks to deal with that. He also gets dropped at the same time. Game just kind of ends from here. So that's pretty much it for that one. And then this next one, we do Biotank again, but we get contained. This game, the quality of opponents isn't as high. And I actually wanted to show you this one on purpose. So a lot of the games I show you guys are like in houses and stuff, but a lot of you guys that are playing pubs or even joining like new games or something like that, like your games aren't going to always look like this. You're not always going to be playing in houses. Maybe even rarely, maybe even never at all. So I think a game like this might be a little more relatable for you guys, and I can kind of show you guys how to handle a situation where it's kind of a crappy situation, but against not like the best opponents, and how to like differentiate who you want to focus on, and how to like read who's good, that kind of thing. So yeah, I think this will actually be a pretty good one for you guys. So here I open bio. We're against a Zerg. It's going 9 pools, so this time I go 2 racks bunker gas, but I actually forget my academy. And go 3 racks before I start my academy, which is a mistake in this case. So because I'm against Zerg, it's Zerg double toss. Stim is king here. Like Stim medic is king. And I just don't do it. It's not good. I just kind of forget. Is what it is. But you see, like I prep for it, right? I got my gas, got my bunker. I end up mining like over 300 gas or something at one point before I start my academy. So move out here, pick an overlord because the top right is going 9 pool. So killing an overlord is pretty painful for 9 pool, but he does end up punishing me a little bit. But it's not that bad. Like he comes down to chase my marines here. If I got behind, it would have been good, but I got clogged up a bit here, which is kind of unfortunate. So it's not the best trade, but it's actually not the worst trade either. Like killing a fewlings isn't bad because it's kind of all he's doing. He's been on 9 pole massing ling this whole time. And so we're keeping note of that, right? So he's been massing ling the entire time. We haven't really seen anything out of the other Protoss at 9 o'clock. And then Orange is going blocking 6 o'clock right now. So 6 o'clock gets blocked, and we're getting 9 pulled from Zerg. So we're kind of keeping this in the back of our mind. So we know he's playing low eco. So we see more lings here, right? So we know he's still making lings. I push out and I see a bunch of zealots and cannons. So I want to fight here We don't immediately want to run away. We want to fight here and shave off as many units as we can, because every unit we kill, so we immediately know we're going to be held in, right? There's a bunch of cannons coming up, and I can't stop them from going up at this point. If we're being held like this, then 99 times out of 100, our teammates are going to be the target. So every unit we kill makes it that much easier for our teammate to survive or trade better, okay? So we don't immediately run away, we want to fight for as long as we can. So cannons come up, fight like slightly outside of range, and then I start my factory. Technically I should have started it immediately, but I wanted to micro a bit and shave off what I could. So now my Protoss is on his own. We killed like a handful of zealots. So this is a situation you guys might find yourselves in pretty often, where you're Terran, you're blocked in, you weren't going factory. And it kind of sucks. But so this is how we assess the situation right now. So we are contained. 6 o'clock is contained. We know our teammate is about to get hit at top left. Their Zerg has been on 9 pool. We've seen him massing lings pretty much the whole time. And we know that Orange has made a bunch of cannons at this point. So what this means is that their Zerg is going to be weak economically. Orange spent a lot of money on the cannons, so he's also going to be a bit weaker. So any trading, we just kind of keep an eye on like how much trading is going on here. The only one we know is strong is Yellow at this point. He's gone Goon, he's untouched, he didn't make cannon, stuff like that we can see anyway. So we can kind of assume that he's going to be the strongest player on their team. This is important, remember this. There's Zerg ends up making like 1 lurker, yeah, right here. Like tries to hit me with 1 lurker, but we have the Overlord there. Because we have the Overlord, that's actually why I skipped making a turret, but I did make the eBay. I start +1 attack. I think I start it soon though. Oh yeah, I wanted to get to science facility. So what I'm doing here, just so you guys know, what I'm doing here is we're just continuing to mass up. We're doing tech. We're not like going hard on the macro. We're kind of working towards tech mostly. You can see I'm going straight to science facility with my tanks in case of like DT and that kind of thing. It's pretty typical for DT to be the follow-up to cannon and DT into Templar. But I've kind of noticed that the quality of player is not like super high here. So what I'm doing is I'm just continuing to tech and macro like as much as I can while focusing mostly on the tech. Because I know when I break out, I'm going to be very, very strong compared to the rest of the room. The only one that might be strong is Yellow, but he's on Heavy Goon, and Heavy Goon means that the tech's typically going to be a bit weaker. Zerg, we know, went 9 pull into Lurker after massing Ling, so we know he's weak. And the other guy made a bunch of cannons, so I don't like rush in. I do this very like patiently, kind of kill what I can and lose as little as I can, because I know my army is going to be really powerful. And now that my tech tree is finished and my eco is getting strong, my macro is also going to kick in, like my army production. So I'm not in a hurry to get out because my army is getting more and more powerful as we go. So we break out here. 6 o'clock is getting hit. And I go straight to the Zerg. The reason I hit Zerg first is because of positioning. Positioning makes him very difficult to deal with because he's able to counterattack me very easily. I know that I don't have to worry about counterattacks from the other two because they're killing my teammate right now. So instead of like rushing to save him or anything, I'm gonna deal with this guy so that I don't have to worry about counterattacks. And like I said, I know my army is very powerful right now. So blue dies, but we kill the Zerg, so we make a trade there. And I know I'm very strong right now. So we go towards mid, and we see that Orange has made even more cannons. There's a few Marines there, but it's like, okay, he is still making cannons, which means that he's going to be pretty weak. We also expanded behind this, right? We expanded because, like I said, we were killing Zerg. We're making that trade, but I know that my army is strong. Yellow's had to fight 2 different people now, so his army's been kind of whittled down over time. And Orange is still making cannons, so we know that he's kind of a weak player. But as you can see, my army trades really, really well against what we're fighting against right now. So move out to expand as I'm like slow pushing mid. Went double bunker just in case I got countered while I was finishing cleaning up the Zerg, like after my teammate died in case somebody ran in. Plus, it's just good security on the expansion. So here we take mid. They try to fight us again, and we take another pretty big fight, get our transfer going. Like you can see, my army is just way stronger. One mistake they made is not having Storm. By now, Orange should have had Storm, but I kind of recognized that Orange was not the greatest player. Because I don't have to worry about Orange, I decided to go for Yellow knowing that he's the strongest player. Don't really want to give him more time. And, yeah, he's the strong one. He could also have like a stronger counter, that kind of thing. Orange does finally come with Templar here. We kind of go for a split, but he still gets some decent storms off. We split okay against it. Yeah, could have been a lot worse for us. And after that, I'm like, okay, we've won the game. Like, that was the only thing I really had to worry about was a bunch of storms. Finish pushing the Protoss here. He quits, GG, whatever. And that pretty well sums up this video. Yeah, just a little bit of situational stuff with Terran. Yeah, just continue focusing on your macro. Maybe you'll find yourself in similar situations. These are pretty common situations, like getting cannoned in. I don't really know, like, obviously what a lot of your games look like, so I try to show you guys like a little more mid-level games this time, or even like slightly lower level, so maybe it's a little bit more relatable. I might try and do some games like that a little more often instead of constantly showing in-houses, because I think in-houses are probably... most of you guys probably aren't playing against like really high-level players. There's typically like 6 or 7 of us that are doing it, so... yeah, I think showing you guys like mid-game levels like this and lower level games will probably do a lot of good. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. If you enjoyed watching, feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe, that kind of thing. If you want anything that you want to see gone over in the next video, just let me know in the comments below, and I will either address you in the comments or I will release another video. You guys have a good day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.